In this video, we'll look into a very interesting feature of LLM called function calling and how do we use that to build AI agents. So function calling in the nutshell is on the runtime, LLM can decide which function of my application it can call to get some more data or to perform certain actions. And in our example, we'll see how to do that. So here I have a simple Next.js application which returns me an endpoint which just says hello world, and I have my OpenAI package imported. Yeah. So to start with, first we need to instantiate an OpenAI object. For that, I need to instantiate OpenAI class with API key. This API key you have to get it from your OpenAI account. And then we can use this to start getting inferences. So for example, now I can say like I need a model GPT 4o and I can pass a message and OpenAI can reply me. For example, tell me a joke. And let me just pass it back to the response. So this is the response from OpenAI. There is some metadata and this is the message. Sure, here's the one for you. Why don't a skeleton fight each other? They don't have the guts. Yeah. So this is my basic OpenAI inferences. I can maybe just clean up a little bit just to get the message, and I can also move this message to perfect. Perfect. I'm using any here because we just don't want to deal with noise of TypeScript at the moment. So yeah, now I have a simple OpenAI if reference and inferences endpoint. Now the question is, what happens instead of tell me a joke if I pass something like what is the weather of Berlin at the moment, right? So let's try that out. What is the weather like in San Francisco, right? And let's see what the answer comes. Yeah, so this is the answer coming from OpenAI, right? I'm unable to provide real-time blah blah blah. Basically, it doesn't know the answer, right? It gives some kind of estimation, but it doesn't know the answer, right? But in our application, it is possible that I have a endpoint which I can hit and get the data and give the answer, right? So basically, what we are going to do here is we are going to tell OpenAI within our application there is a function which can get you the weather of a particular location, right? And you can use that in these kind of situations to get the real data. So how do we do that? For example, here I have a mock function which gives me a weather data, right? It could have been any API endpoint, but here I just have a function which takes a location, and if it is one of these locations, it gives me some kind of data, or it just gives me like this is a known location, right? And we have to tell that to OpenAI that we have a function like this which can be used for getting the weather data, right? So how do we do that? We do that by passing a tools parameter, right? So we tell OpenAI there is a list of tools available and you can use that for getting more data or actions, right? And how do we define these tools? So here is my tools array, right? So what I'm doing here is I'm just passing a schema of my function, right? So what I'm saying is there is a function available which is get current weather, and then there is a description of the function, the get the current weather for a location. Now this description is important here because this is how OpenAI GPT-4o model figure out which function to call. There could be more than one functions, right? So it figure out based on this description, okay, I need to call this function. And then we pass parameters. This takes two parameters, location and unit, and the location is mandatory. And this is again description here tells me like how do I pass this parameter, right? So cool. So this is a function that I'm saying OpenAI that I have available that you can use, right? Now let's see what happens. Right now I am getting this data then in the content there is some blah 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 that I don't really know what is the answer. And if I hit it, my API now, you will notice the content is null and the tool calls gives me a function back. It tells me you can call this get current weather location San Francisco, right? So it didn't call it on my behalf, but it says this tool can be used for getting the right data. Also, like, we can pass more than one function and it chooses the right tool. For example, here I have another function. Now this time it gives me stock price, right? Basically it is just get stock price function. It doesn't even exist. It doesn't have to exist in my code base also, right? It's just like a function schema that tells this is a get stock price and it takes a parameter of company name, right? And now when I am hitting the API endpoint, what is happening is OpenAI behind the scene, based on the data, based on the user query and based on the tools available, it chooses like this tool should be called, right? If my question is something other than this, let's say, what is the stock price of Google, right? In that case, what happens is OpenAI is now choosing you should call get stock price with this parameter. And what happens if I call something like tell me a joke about programming, or better, yeah, let's keep it this way. So here it is not even calling any tools. It's basically just giving me the response directly. So that is the crux of function calling, right? If we pass list of tools, like these are the function available to us, OpenAI can on runtime based on the user query, it can decide this tool should be called to get more data, right? So let's get back to our example, which was tell me the weather of San Francisco, right? Cool. So now that we have these tools, now we have to actually call that tool and send the request again with the data that we get it from our tool, right? So for this, what we have to do is we have to check. First, let's just store it into two variables. And now we have to check if there is a tool exist. Here we are just creating like a mapping. The real name of our function is this, and this is the name that we are passing here to the OpenAI, right? So you just like mapping the function, like when something like this string comes, call this function basically, right? And all we are doing is we are pushing in our message queue the message, right? So what we are doing is we are preparing the message array that we will be passing again, right? So if I do my console.log here, message queue, and if I check my console, you would notice we are preparing this array, right? The first role was user, what is the weather like in San Francisco? Now this is the message. This is the message coming out of OpenAI, which is saying like you need to call these tools, right? Perfect. Cool. So now we actually have to call the tool, and the way we do it is we run a for loop, and whatever tools it says we based on that we figure out this is the function name, this is the function argument, and we call actual function with the function response, right? And we can also log this just to see what is the function response is, right? So now when I call this, this is the function that is coming out of my function call, which says San Francisco, temperature 72 degrees Celsius, right? Perfect. Now we also add this into our message queue, and the way we add it, we add the tool ID and we add the function name, function response. This is how OpenAI knows, okay, this tool gave me this response, right? Now after the function calling, we can another time just log and see like what is our message queue, and let's see. So now if you notice, our message queue is first user ask, then OpenAI replied, and then we called the function and we get the data and we put it in a message queue for us. From here we just have to call OpenAI again to get the response. For example, I can just call the OpenAI that this is my second response, and here I'm passing GPT-4o's message queue again, right? And I can just send this response back. There, right? Now let's look into the response. Here, the current weather, current temperature in San Francisco is this. Would you like to know more information, detail about whatever, blah blah blah, right? So this is the function calling available in a lot of LLM models, and what it does is, if you notice, it just seamlessly integrate with our code, right? This is really powerful that the LLM can actually call certain, not really call, but actually tell us like we need to call this function to get this data. We could have done any other action instead of getting the data, right? We can create the PDF file. We could have sent an email or something like that, right? But this kind of a structured function calling is really powerful. And this is the foundation of building AI agents. So that's it for this video. And if you really like the video, I would say like please subscribe the channel, and I will see you in the next video.